Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pitchdeck Asia. We are live broadcasting to all over Asia. We're on Spotify, iTunes, the usual social media platforms, and streaming live to YouTube as well. My name is Graham Brown, and in the next 40 minutes, I'm going to take you on a journey with one of our latest startup founders who's joining us all the way from Kuala Lumpur, Kim Young-Wung, or Kim as he's known to everybody else. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks Graham. Thank you for inviting me to the show. I'm happy to be here, grateful, honored as well. And hey, I'm Kim Young. Guys can call me Kim, and I'm the founder of Red Dino.
Excellent. It's great to have you here. Are you born and bred in KL?
Born and bred in KL, although my name doesn't sound like it, as a lot of people would mention.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about Korea as well. So the connection
Yeah,
coming up on that in a minute. Obviously, it sounds Korean. We were speculating off air whether or not it was a Korean name, but you KL born and bred. Fantastic to have you here. We're going to talk about Red Dino. We're going to talk about the startup challenge, which you were involved in Seoul in Korea, and the whole journey as well. And maybe we can start with the startup challenge just so we can put that into context as well. That's how we're talking with you on the show today. A year ago, take us back, you were involved in the startup challenge in Korea, in Seoul. Tell us a little about this challenge, how you got involved with it, and what the result was.
Yeah, so we were in a networking session, I remember. Actually, during a networking session, I met up with this Korean accelerator. And he mentioned to me that in South Korea, there are quite a lot of SMEs who are looking to sell towards Southeast Asia. And that is how I got to know there is a market in Korea for businesses like us. And he offered me, an opportunity to join the KSGC, the Korean Grand Challenge, right? And he showed me the way, he pointed me to the right direction, and that's where I found out the KSGC GC Grand Challenge. And we submitted our profile and tried to participate in it. And yeah, fortunately for us, we got selected in the end as the top 40 to be invited towards Seoul. And yeah, we were there in August up until December. That's where we got then selected as a finalist, top 20. In fact, we were in the top 10. And we were supposed to head back to Seoul this year, since January until May. But because of the MCO or because of the coronavirus, we were forced to head back to Malaysia earlier than we expected to. And ever since then, we have been conducting our businesses from here, liaising with our partners in Korea. Yeah.
Excellent. So this is the K Startup Grand Challenge. Took place in 2019. It's taking place again in 2020. Thank you to the organizers as well for making this happen today and bringing Kim to the show. So let's talk about the story. Red Dino, when did you start this business? Are you an entrepreneur by nature? Did you come out of the corporate world or did you come out of university? Tell us a little bit about the background.
Yeah, so Red Dino was actually founded back in 2016. So it was 1 year after I graduated from uni. I studied mass communication back then. I was in an advertising company as an intern right after my college. And right after that, actually, I went towards being a driver in Grab. Yeah. So that was a very fantastic moment. Instead, it's a great journey for me to learn about entrepreneurship. I learned a lot about Grabs. I learned a lot about the company. I learned a lot about how they have grown since then. And my family, they have been entrepreneur their whole life. And I thought to myself, why not I do something for myself? And that's when I was thinking what to do and what is there in the market that I could fit in. My father actually gave me an opportunity to help their company, they are a shoe manufacturing company, to start their online business. And that's where I first started in 2016, helping my father's company to bring their shoes online. And back then I was selling in, I think, 7 different marketplaces. Lazada, Shopee is one of them. And we have, in local Malaysia, we have Lelong, Zalora. We have a lot of different marketplaces
Hmm. So
And
your
yeah,
family was a shoe manufacturing business, and you came in and took it
yep,
into the digital world. It's a bit like the Gary Vee story, isn't it? Taking the wine business online. What was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the challenge of that? Because I imagine your family had a successful business, and then you came along and suggested taking it online. Was it an easy sell for you to do all of that? This was digital transformation in
So
the
it
real
wasn't
world.
easy at all. Yeah, it wasn't easy at all because not sure about Singapore, but in Malaysia, traditional business owner, they always have this brick and mortar minded way of or even so method in terms of conducting business.
Mm,
And to tell them that we are doing everything's digital, it blew them away because they are used to face communications, right? Like even Zoom meeting nowadays, it still blows them away. How could one possibly have a meeting or even a podcast session like this
mm,
uh, when we don't meet each other in real life? And that's where the challenge is. We have to educate. I have to educate my parents, my family, in terms of what is the good ways, or what is the method to sell online. Why do you need to sell online? Looking at so I gave them an example of Alibaba back then. So that one, since they have been conducting business with China a lot, so they are quite familiar with Alibaba and what has Alibaba done throughout the year, and gave them a bit of motivation in terms of trying out this online business or e-commerce. And yeah, so that's where I got started, where I got the approval, or so we speak, the green light, to move forward in helping them towards their e-commerce journey. And yeah, in a short period of time, we were selling quite well, especially in Zalora, Shopee, and Lazada. Uh, and through word of mouth, my father's friend, who is also a manufacturer in perhaps fashions, apparels, they came to me and asked me, "Hey, do you want to pick up this as part time to help me in my e-commerce journey as well?"
mm.
And shortly, I think within half a year, I am managing around 10 different client seller accounts in different marketplaces. And that's where I know that why not, let's just do this as a full-time business. And we hired a few part-timer to help me along with that, who became one of my founding team, still with me right now
Mm.
until today. So that is about 4 years ago.
Yeah,
And
this is the
yeah,
classic accidental entrepreneur story, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
You didn't set out to create a big platform. You solved one person's problem, and then you discovered there were a lot more people like that.
correct,
When
correct,
you were
yeah.
talking to these traditional brick and mortar businesses, these contacts of your family, and you were for the first time really getting to understand their businesses, what were the kind of challenges? What were the pain points and frustrations that they had? I mean, obviously going digital is part of that, but I think it's a lot more than that, isn't it? There's a lot
Yep,
more that goes into that. What did you
yeah.
understand through spending time with them?
Okay, that's a few things that I understand in terms of back then when I talked to a few of them is that they uses papers a lot. So a lot of things are jotted down in not Excel sheets in Microsoft or even Mac, but in notebooks, right? That is one of the pain point that we have to solve for them, whereby we have to make everything digitalized, inventory systems, their stock inventory, their products code, uh, description details, their products name and such materials, everything has to be digitalized. So that's one of the major challenge when I was trying to set up an online e-commerce, to say, department for them. The
Mm,
second thing is they are not used to spending, you know, uh, investing money on photo shooting. So that's one thing that they thought that only big brands does it. We are just a manufacturer for OEM brands. We don't do this such kind of thing. So they don't like to invest money on great photography. So that's another challenge because it takes a long time for them to realize people only purchase good looking stuff in
mm,
online. Yeah, through online people do like. I have a client last time which provide us pictures whereby they took from their phone, right? And the background is just their factory. You can see the factory workers walking behind them, and it is just not perfect. The lighting's not there. You couldn't see any details on that piece of products, and they kind of insist that I do not want to spend money on taking pictures.
mm,
For example, an example that they give me is that I'm selling these products for maybe 20 to 25 ringgit Malaysia, and per products right now out there, if we were to take it for photo shoot, it's around maybe 20 ringgit. So that investment, they are not willing to make that investment, because they think that the photo shooting is even more expensive than my product itself almost. But they don't understand that one photos goes a long way. People don't just buy one pair of shoes online. In fact, there are millions of buyers by purchasing your product. So a piece of image actually sells itself after you place it online. So it
Absolutely.
takes a lot of time to educate them. Yeah.
Well, the education really is, it's the shift in the mindset, isn't it? From their
Yep.
business world, most of their business was done through analog, through meeting people face to face, through relationships, and therefore the trust was built in those relationships. Whereas what you're doing is taking them into new markets where there is no existing trust. They may not know
Yep.
who these manufacturers are, and therefore seeing the product is a key part of that trust building as well. So
Correct.
let's sort of dive into the pitch deck if we can, and have a look a bit closer at Red Dino, understand some of the numbers of just how big this market really is. So, and bearing in mind that some people will be listening to this on audio, so they won't see the data flashed up, so we'll have to be a bit descriptive. So if we can have a look at the pitch deck and then maybe have a look at slides 3 and 4, we've got the size of the market here. So we start with this one here, market potential. Lazada, 160,000 plus sellers. Shopee, 1.6 million users. Geographically, what market are you talking about here, and how does this fit in with Red Dino?
So this is Malaysia market itself. And Malaysia is one of the fastest growing in terms of seller merchant base for both Lazada and Shopee. And just 3 years back, Lazada only have, I think, around 40,000 sellers on their platform. And right now they are about fourfold of it, 160,000 plus sellers. And this is recorded back in 2019. So I'm not too sure how many sellers they have right now in their platform, but that's the amount of sellers that are getting on board. So why is it relevant to us is because first thing, Lazada sellers are also our targeted audience. That's one. And the other thing is it creates a certain urgency for offline sellers or retailers, manufacturers right now to understand that people are getting on board with marketplaces to sell online, and you are falling behind already. Consider. So you have to be online right now, especially during this period of time. And as for Shopee, they have the biggest user database compared to Lazada. That is because every users who sign up with Shopee are eligible to sell a product. So 1.6 million users is equivalent to 1.6 million sellers, but not necessarily equal to legitimate sellers or brand sellers. So they have maybe around 3% of the users who are long-term sellers, who are serious sellers, who are selling products in Shopee.
And the rest are hobbyists, it sounds, maybe.
Yeah, and the rest are.
What are they typically like? Can you maybe give us a pen profile of a Lazada seller and a Shopee seller? What kind of people are they? Are they, what kind of backgrounds? Are they like your parents' business, or, they're your parents' friends, or are they different?
So there are a few type of category in terms of being a Lazada or a Shopee seller. And we do have brands that went into Lazada and Shopee as a brand seller. So definitely Lazada and Shopee have brand sellers inside, like for example, Nike, Ray-Ban. But I would say 80% of sellers are more towards part-timers, manufacturers, and housewife, or even housewife that they are trying to find an extra income. Yeah.
So are they, even these sort of part-timers, are they generating like real business, or are you just focused on mainly the brands? I mean, typically, who are the people you work with?
In the beginning of my journey of Red Dino, we focus a lot on manufacturers. So we try to onboard as much manufacturers as we can during that time, especially in the fashion industry. But we quickly branch out to authorized sellers, authorized brand sellers. For example, we have clients who are selling air conditioner, fridge, or even televisions for major brands. And then right now, in terms of Red Dino, we are currently serving quite a lot of corporates corporate sellers who have office all around Southeast Asia. We are trying to set up presence for them throughout Southeast Asia, meaning Lazada Malaysia, Lazada Singapore, Lazada Thailand. So we are doing that for a lot of corporates right now. But most of the time, people who inquire with us, people who look up to us and ask for a service would be small time sellers, I would say, retailers who maybe have just one shop in Malaysia who are selling maybe groceries or even bakery products. So most of the people who need our help, I would say, are those small times retailer, small retailer SME instead of corporates. Yeah, because they are the one who are really lack of the manpower or even the time to do this kind of thing, to venture into this e-commerce.
Absolutely. Well, let's wrap all those up together and have a look at what the problem is that they're facing. Back into the pitch deck, slides 5 and 6. We can flash those up so we can see. Like you say, they don't have the time and scale as well. I mean, going back to your paper notebooks, that's certainly not scalable. You
Exactly.
can't transfer that information. And on the second slide as well, we can have a look at that one quickly. We'll just get all the data points out. Where do I start? Which would be one of the frustrations. What do I do with different markets where language is an issue? How do I manage inventory? How do I match like real inventory with online inventory? All these kind of issues. And what kind of skills do I need? So let's sort of package all of these up. Typically, what are the major problems that stops people getting onto all these different platforms? And do these platforms have different requirements as well? Does that make it hard to interface between them all?
Yeah, platform does have different requirements in terms of sort of basic knowledge in terms of selling in online e-commerce is to upload your products, right? That's the first step that you have to know how when you want to start selling. And different platform will have different requirements when you upload the products onto their platform. So that's one of the major problems. I think most of the time, our clients' major difficulties in terms of going e-commerce is the lack of time and the lack of manpower or even knowledge to start doing correctly. So we do have a few clients come with us that are already selling in Lazada or Shopee, but when we review their shops, when we review their seller's account, it is quite a mess. And they did not have the right tools to help them or do not have the right direction in terms to help them step the right, the first step is always very important. That's what I always tell my client. So yeah, I think the lack of time and lack of knowledge would be the main difficulties that stop them from joining e-commerce.
What does that produce? What are the experiences that manifests when they don't have the lack of time and the lack of knowledge, and they do, like you say, have a messy e-commerce website? What tends to happen then? Do they just simply just turn it off, or does that sort of back up with other problems?
Yeah, so I think to describe that, we'll have to talk about a little bit of how marketplace works, right? So a lot of marketplace they market themselves as an easy platform for any sellers to join on board and start selling. So that is one of their marketing way of finding new merchants. But the truth is, like any other search engine, or just like any other search engine algorithm, Lazada and Shopee have them too. And when I talk about messy, when I talk about them being messy, is they do not have the keywords that directly reflect what they are selling, which one, it does not allow people to search their products in marketplaces. It does not appear even in Google search. So it is very hard for them to gain any tractions or even traffics from marketplaces. Second of all, as I mentioned previously, the pictures that they use are pretty unattractive sometimes, and it doesn't tell the stories. And then third of all, one of the main thing is that when I talk about lack of time is because they do not have the time to communicate with Lazada and Shopee. Although it is still a marketplace, a digital e-commerce platform for you to sell your products, but in Red Dino, we do a lot of communications with Lazada and Shopee team to make sure that our our sellers' products stay relevant in their page in Shopee platform to make sure that they are exposed to the campaigns and promotions that Lazada and Shopee are both organizing. So these are some of the things that a lot of SMEs out there does not know that they can be doing or they should be doing. Plus, they do not have the time to even explore this piece of material provided by Lazada and Shopee. And it is not easy, I would say it's not easy to get a hold of Lazada and Shopee account manager when you want to. So these are some of the things that we also help our clients on. Yeah.
Is it constantly changing as well? I mean, you mentioned algorithms and account management,
Correct.
and
Yeah,
therefore
it's constantly
some people are
changing.
getting left behind as well, I guess.
Correct. Yeah.
So, can you give us an example of that? I mean, we'll look at the solution in a minute, but what would that be without getting into too much technicalities? It's like, for example, would they favor one keyword and then change the algorithm and favor another keyword, or is it that would they favor a certain type of seller? How is that changing? Obviously, it happens all the time with Google, but
Yeah.
happening on these platforms.
Yeah, so Google is a much more complex system, right? But Lazada and Shopee, they are pretty straightforward. They do favor certain keywords for your type of, depends on what kind of category you're in. So they do favor a certain type of keywords. But to get to the top of the page, for example, your products, if you want it to be on the top of the page, you have to fulfill a few requirements that are different in both platforms, both Lazada and Shopee. So for example, in Lazada, the keywords it has to be appear in both title, your descriptions, your highlights, and then your pictures have to be relevant. What is the size of pictures? What is how does your pictures looks like? Is your pictures in your descriptions? And then also they also favor sellers who has more ratings, who are much more active when it comes to joining campaigns. So if you are active in their platforms, the algorithm actually favors your products, even though if there's no one bought it yet or no one bought it before. So this is some of the things that we in our team help our clients with to make sure that they stays relevant to the platform, both Lazada and Shopee. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's have a look at the platform itself that you have the solution. So if we can have a look at the pitch deck in slides 7 and 8, we get a better idea visualizing it. So this is, I guess, where you're a lot more hands-on, the services side. And we can have a look at the other page as well, page 8, and your platform as well. So
Yep.
is there two parts to the business? Do you have like an agency side and a platform side, or is it all, does the agency that is more sort of a hands-on onboarding with clients? How does it work? Help us understand the setup.
Yeah, we do have two parts of the business. We started off with, like I said, the setup and the retainer part. So that's our core service, where we help manufacturers, SMEs to set up their e-commerce account in different marketplaces. And then we retain for them. We manage their e-commerce like an outsourced partner. And the technology comes behind it. So our team uses this technology, DynoSync, in-house developed technology to sync between Lazada and Shopee to make sure that their inventory, their orders are all captured in one platform. So make it easier for our clients to check out their business sales, their inventory, as well as the orders that comes in. They can directly process the orders in one platform. So at the same time, we do have this as a different branch of business model where we allow public to subscribe it and use it themselves. If they, for example, they are able to handle it for themselves, they can use this DynoSync to sync their products between multiple platforms to manage their inventories and their orders.
So the SaaS platform, DynoSync, that is publicly available. That's on a
Yeah.
subscription service.
Yep.
That, I guess, came out of the original business, which is like you were identifying problems and pain points of
Correct.
vendors,
Yep.
and then you were manually solving them. And then you thought, actually, if we built a tool here, that would help scale this so we can solve this not just for one person, but for potentially thousands, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. I mean, it's a classic story in the sense that a lot of SaaS platforms came from agencies, right? That people have these visions of billion-dollar SaaS platforms. A lot of them came, I mean, even, think of people like MailChimp as an example. They came from that sort of very manual, hands-on service at the beginning, because the biggest problem here with building a successful SaaS platform is understanding what the problem is. It's not necessarily the technology, but it's understanding what problem are we trying to solve here.
Yep. Yep.
Because it's easy to build stuff that has no problem. You know, you can find a solution, but is there a problem behind it, right?
Yep.
So help me understand as well the journey here with your solution is that you have two parts to the business. You have these retainers with merchants, and then you have the SaaS platform as well. Help us understand like the scope of where you're operating at the moment in terms of, you know, who you're working with, the size of the markets, and what your plans are from here.
Yeah. So technically, we focus a lot on our retainer part. Mainly, also after the KSGC platform, we realized a lot of people requires management services instead of just take this platform and do it yourself way. So we focus right now at this current moment. We focus a lot on our retainer part. In terms of DynoSync, it is still available for public to subscribe. But in a way, we actually stop continue what we call develop it in terms of new features, because the problems that we wanted to solve initially with the software is actually all inside the technology already. So it's all in the platform already, and our team is actually using our DynoSync to manage our clients right now. So yeah, we focus a lot on the retainer part, because we do have a few big projects that came in just recent months, whereby we need to put in quite a lot of manpowers on it.
Yeah. It seems like for you, DynoSync is almost in your setup, your own secret weapon. So you would use that to service your clients better, really. That seems to be the main reason for it as well.
Yep.
Okay. And help us understand, before we talk a bit about the journey itself that you've been on, that the way e-commerce is evolving, especially here in Southeast Asia. Like if you go way back, way back, like in the olden days of e-commerce, we had, for example, Amazon, and then we had eBay, which are really the front runners of a lot of what we have now. And then obviously Alibaba and AliExpress came to the fore, and we had Lazada, and then you have Shopee as well, which has had huge success in the region. What are your thoughts for the future? What are you seeing like trend-wise in e-commerce? Like where does Instagram come into this mix? Is that a valuable player in e-commerce in the region? What about TikTok? Are we going to see a next generation of platform emerge, or do you think there's so much growth in these existing platforms and the way that they're going that we don't need to worry about those new entrants?
I think not to say we shouldn't be worried about those new entrants, but we should be aware of it. We should keep an eye on them. But in a way, Southeast Asia still has lots to grow in terms of e-commerce. If usually what I tell my clients is when they ask me, what do you see the future of e-commerce, I would say look at how Amazon is doing, or even how Alibaba is doing. That would be our immediate future for the next maybe 5 to 10 years. It's just that we are currently falling behind comparing to Amazon and even Alibaba, right? And that is where Lazada and Shopee is trying to create a platform to bring us towards that stage. And locally in Malaysia, one of the major challenges for us to move forward as an e-commerce player is our courier services, right? We are still not as strong as say Amazon and Alibaba. So yeah, we still have a lot of place to improve on in terms of e-commerce journey. So
yeah, I think you're absolutely
trends,
right with the logistics side as well.
yeah,
That seems to
exactly.
be, because if you think about it, that in the US or maybe Japan and even in China now, you can get same-day delivery
Correct,
from Amazon
yeah,
or Alibaba. But here
yeah.
in Singapore, it's 5 days on average. It seems to. What's going on there? Is that simply the last mile logistics? That I guess that's not an issue with the merchants, is it?
It's not an issue with the merchants. Instead, it's the issues of the sudden surge of demand, I would say. Uh, because in this past 3 years, I think e-commerce has surged up quite high compared to the last, for example, 5 to 10 years. And courier services, typically, they could not handle the kind of demand, which makes delays on the shipping services, the time, the last mile. And although Lazada and Shopee has been promoting, one day first 24-hour delivery coming soon in their platform, but I would see it. I don't think it will happen within this year or even the next. Yeah, probably yes, the next year, but it still depends on how we overcome this current pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so the demands are really high in terms of e-commerce. That's where the growth of e-commerce are. But in terms of the last mile delivery, we are still catching up. Our courier services are still working very hard in terms of catching up to that kind of demand. Yeah, unlike like you said, Amazon or even Alibaba. I remember in Guangzhou, I ordered something and it arrived at my doorstep within like 4 hours. So that
Yeah.
was crazy. Yeah. So
I mean,
it
that's a lot
takes,
to do with the state, the maturity of the market, isn't it, as well? The
correct,
fact that
correct.
you have, if, for example, Shopee and Lazada, the next growth story is the other 500 million people still to use the platform, then they'll chase that rather than the 4 hour last mile delivery. That will be the
Exactly.
second thing that they'll chase.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Okay.
one thing is, yeah, I think I realized in terms of Malaysian, our shopping habits also have to change if we want that to happen. We tend to go for cheaper products most of the time, and shipping fees are one of the concerns that a lot of us as a buyers will go like, oh my God, the shipping is so expensive, I'm not going to get that. So I think in a way, if buyers are willing to pay more in their shippings for a faster delivery, yeah, I think that can come as well. That can come sooner as well. Yeah,
Okay.
that's my opinion. Yeah.
And what's happening now that you've mentioned the pandemic, we're recording this right in the middle of it, is how has e-commerce changed, both on the consumer side, like you talk about habits, and also the supplier side in terms of what's happening from your
Mhm.
merchants? What have you noticed as distinct trends as a result of the pandemic?
Uh, in terms of e-commerce, I would say most of my merchants are doing extra. It's like extra well during this time, I would say so. And one of the major trend, it's a funny one in Malaysia itself, is that people are buying a lot of fridge. So that's just one of
A
the
lot
fun
of
facts, I think.
a lot of
Fridge.
fridges.
Yeah, so fridges. So they one of my clients who are selling fridge are actually selling, I think, 200% in terms of surge in their profits.
Yeah.
So they are selling really well in this MCO. But yeah, in terms of the overall market, I think people will take e-commerce much more seriously, especially the traditional SMEs and traditional manufacturers, uh, because we have been getting quite a lot of requests, quite a lot of chats, inquiries, uh, asking us how can they, as a manufacturer or as an SME, are able to join the e-commerce. Uh, Even industry like food, groceries, frozen foods are looking towards adopting new business model for this e-commerce. And I think this is a good start, right? This is a really good start for them to move forward towards this digital market
Yeah.
and push forwards to a greater high in this e-commerce industry. So yeah, in terms
Yeah.
of e-commerce, I think this pandemic has been doing quite well for them. Yeah,
It's giving them the urgency, which is
correct. Yeah,
important. And that urgency is often the bump required to nudge people into action.
exactly.
And not necessarily just as a stopgap until we return to quote unquote normal, but really to get them thinking about options long term. Because
Yeah,
obviously we don't know what the future is like, and this makes sense for them regardless of pandemic or not. So,
yeah.
thinking about your journey as well, Kim, 4 years in the game, obviously the last few months for you, we don't want to be celebrating, obviously, because people are
Yeah.
suffering at this stage, but it has been good. But I think that is the key, is that you are a digitally native company, and therefore you will do well when there are these kind of exogenous shocks, as the economist calls these black swan events. It will shift in your favor long term. 4 years in the game, though, I bet you've learned a lot. Tell us, share with us, if you will, like, what do you know now about e-commerce 4 years into the Red Dino journey that you didn't know in day zero before you started?
There are quite a lot, actually.
Please
To be honest,
share.
there are
Like, and
quite a lot.
mistakes as well. We want to know. We've
Yeah.
all good entrepreneurs make mistakes.
Yeah, I think one of the main thing in terms of what I learned having this business or being an entrepreneur is that whenever in a business, in anything that you do, make changes that you think will last you forever, right? Don't pivot a business because of what has happened currently. Instead, pivot a business that can benefit you in the long term. So that's one thing I learned when I try to get my father on board this e-commerce. I gave them the idea uh, of long-term business instead of just why now, why starts now, and why is it important right now. I gave them the importance of why is it important in the future. So that's one thing I learned being an entrepreneur. And in terms of e-commerce, once I got in, I got to understand a lot of the ecosystems around it. So in e-commerce, I don't think we are not all competitors in e-commerce. Instead, we are all partners, and we definitely are able to cross-sell each other's products and bring beneficial intents to different merchants, different sellers. That's one of it. And a lot of things happens between all around e-commerce. It's not just one man job. So in the beginning, I thought e-commerce could be done with just a simple few clicks in front of your laptop, but it's not. It involves photographies, involve
Mm.
content writings, involve marketing, involve a detailed plan of how do you want to market your products, your brand awareness, involve even search engine, SEO, Google's. All these are really new to me when I first started this e-commerce journey. So even though I studied mass communication, but throughout my education, throughout my uni, I learned about billboards, television, TV, advertisement instead of social media, Facebook, Instagram, Google's. So these are some of the things that I think anyone who wants to go for e-commerce have to take note about, because it's not only about selling online, but it's about creating a full cycle of how you create a brand awareness, how you gain your traffics, and then how your buyers can come back and purchase from you
Mm.
after the process. Yeah, so it
Absolutely, how
is a full
important that
cycle.
is, that
Yeah.
experience as well. I've got a question here. I'm just going to ask you a question before we jump into talking a bit about your team as well. Question from one of your guests today, one of your audience, Alex Coe asks, how do you ensure customer service? I guess this is what we're talking about, isn't it? Is that the
Mm-hmm.
experience in customer service is key. I guess the fear that most people have of e-commerce is you're dealing with some faceless merchant that
Yeah.
you may lose your money. So what are your thoughts on customer service in the grand scheme, and how do you ensure it works, and how do you train your merchants?
Yeah. So in the case of Lazada and Shopee, actually they created quite a lot of tools for us to be in touch with the customer through live chat. And this is one of the way that I always ask my merchant to always take note on your live chat. If there is something technical questions or there is any questions at all, try to reply them within half an hour, because that half an hour might cost you your sales, or even cause you to lose him or her as your buyer. And that's one of it. The second of it is we do a lot of customer engagement services with our team here, meaning anyone who add your products to cart, or even add your products to wish list, your followers, we can reach directly to their inbox, in-app inbox, and do a gentle reminder on how things are going. Is there anything that we can help them with? And to make sure that they understand that it is not a robot talking here. It is a human speaking to you just from another devices. And the third thing that I always ask my merchants to do is that to always include thank you note in their
Mm.
parcels. So that is it's a very simple steps, but a very humane touch, right? So People want to
Absolutely.
feel appreciated, like, okay, thank you for your work, and give them a direction, point them to a place whereby if they have any complaints or anything they want to ask, don't be afraid to provide that phone number. So that
Mm.
is also, speaking of which, that is also one of the challenge to brick and mortars, right? Because they often does not like to provide phone numbers or even emails to their customers. So in digital case, I think it's very important to have that to make sure that your buyer knows who to contact, or to make sure that they know that they are not out of reach after they receive a product from
Yeah,
you. Mhm.
absolutely. And the key then is they become repeat buyers, and that's how you build a
Correct.
business,
Yeah.
isn't it? All right. Rounding up, let's talk about your team and your plans for expansion as well, because you are interested in recruiting new talent to your team as well. If we
Yeah.
can flash up the pitch deck on slide 9. Um, these are the main people in the team. Obviously, if you're watching this, you can see the, I guess, the management team here. Obviously, Kim on the left as well. Kim,
Yeah.
help us understand, before we talk about what you're looking for as well, what do you do? How do you spend most of your day? How do you fit into this? Obviously, you're the founder,
Mhm.
but what do you do? What does that entail? How do you divide your time? What is it taken up with?
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. I think I still do quite a lot of sales uh, currently in terms of bigger corporates. They usually I would be the one following up with them, but we do have a weekly meeting to catch up with the marketing side as well as the operation side to make sure everything is going smoothly with the clients and the merchants. I still keep a very close communication with almost all of my team, as we have WhatsApp group that keeps us in loop of whatever is happening. So usually what I do during the day is chat with new clients, and definitely business development in creating more opportunities, more partners opportunities, which you mentioned just now. We are looking for partners who are willing to join us to create an ecosystem whereby we can provide a comprehensive solution. So right now, I'm currently talking with multiple social media management companies, logistic companies, or even courier services to make to allow more services or allow more deals or promotions provided by them for our clients.
Hmm.
So that is part of what I do in the daily routine.
Specifically, is there a particular type of company you're looking for that has a solution, or maybe have access to certain resources or people that would really help expand that you could partner with?
Yeah, so I think most of the time we would look for, I would say, organization. Like, for example, in Malaysia, we have the SME corporations, whereby they act as a support uh, to SMEs around in Malaysia, or to give them services that they might not know about, like this kind of company that I would like to talk to them about with. We also like to talk with social media management companies who can create bundle packages for our clients to conduct social media marketing throughout Facebook, Instagram, and even Google SEO. So these are the few partners that we are looking currently,
Hmm.
because we have already found a few logistic companies to be our partners. But logistics are still welcome uh, to talk with us, because we are always happy to explore more.
Okay, and geographically, any guidance on where you would like to talk to these people? Obviously, Malaysia. Any other
Obviously,
market?
Malaysia, yeah, yeah. But we are talking to people with Singapore,
Hmm.
company in Singapore, as well as Thailand, right now. So
Okay.
we are expanding towards to Thailand and Singapore in terms of helping our clients and our merchants to create their online presence locally there. Yeah.
Excellent. Exciting times. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today on Pitchdeck Asia. What is the best channel for people to get in touch with you? What do you prefer? Do you prefer LinkedIn, email? What works for you?
LinkedIn, email, actually both works for me, but
Okay.
it will be best, yeah. It will be best if it's just LinkedIn, because we have direct chats from LinkedIn anyway.
Excellent. So
Yeah.
it's Kim Yung Wong on LinkedIn under Red Dino. That's Kim Yung Wong, everybody, or Kim, as he's known from Red Dino. Thanks for coming and sharing your story with us today. Quick shout out to the website as well. Can you give us the website link for Red Dino so we can find it?
Yeah, it's www.reddinoventures with an s.com.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So go and check that out or reach out to Kim on LinkedIn. If you enjoyed the story today, you enjoyed listening, watching Pitchdeck Asia, and were inspired by his journey. And B, if you are interested in the partnership opportunities that he's talking about as well, would like to learn a little bit more about how you could collaborate on growing that ecosystem here in Southeast Asia. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to the audience as well and your
Thank
questions.
you.
Really enjoyed that. Looking forward to seeing you at a future Pitchdeck Asia as well. Maybe see 4 years. Let's not leave it a love of 4 years before you're on here again. And we'll hear about your journey as well in the future. So thanks for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you, Graham. Thank you.